Okay, Year 10, we're coming to the end of our study of the Plains Indians and the Wild West. So what I need you to do is put this as a heading in your books. The Plains Indians, the final destruction of their way of life. And then underneath that, I just need you to make a neat copy of the 5 bullet points we can see. This is a list of the final things we have to look at before we end our study of the American West. So it's the Battle of Little Bighorn, 1876, life on reservations, the destruction of the buffalo, government policy in the Dawes Severalty Act of 1887, and the Wounded Knee Massacre 1890. Together, these events and developments will see, tragically, the final destruction of the Plains Indians and their way of life on the Great Plains. So pause the slide and just make a copy of what you see on screen. Okay, so just a reminder, we've already studied the 1860s and the fact that the US government and the US Army have already been involved in a sequence of conflicts with the Plains Indians. We studied Little Crow's War, we studied the Cheyenne War, and we studied Red Cloud's War. And we also should remember that in 1868, the US government signed the second Fort Laramie Treaty with the Plains Indians. And this gave to the Plains Indians reservation land which the US government said would be theirs for all time. And President Grant initiated a peace policy whereby he would make sure that these Indian lands were not again entered by white people or these treaties were broken. And you can see on the map, you can see an example of the Sioux lands defined in the 1868 treaty. And that land shaded was going to be the Sioux forever, according to the second treaty of 1868. So that's the background to our study of the Battle of the Little Bighorn. So on to the next slide. So the Battle of Little Bighorn is probably the most famous battle in the whole history of the Plains Indians and their conflict with the federal government. So I just want to talk you through the causes. So first of all, gold was discovered in the Black Hills in the Great Sioux Reservation, that land given to the Sioux in the 1868 Second Fort Laramie Treaty. And you can see the location of that gold. I've put the yellow oval with the black outline. So, predictably, from 1874 onwards, thousands of whites entered Sioux territory and laid claim to land in violation of the 1868 Fort Laramie Treaty. They were after the gold that was in the Black Hills. The Sioux refused to sell the land to the US government, and obviously believing that they had been betrayed by the US government, thousands of Sioux warriors left the reservation, led by chiefs Sitting Bull and Crazy Horse. They intended to defend their sacred lands against the white invaders and against the US Army. So the US Army was ordered to force the Indians back onto the reservation. And that, in short, although you're going to read more detail about it, is the causes of this new conflict between the Sioux and the US government. So on to the next slide. Okay, so we have to understand the narrative of the Great Sioux War and the Battle of Little Bighorn. So I've already gone through an outline of the causes, but you'll find more detail on the causes on page 86, which is the PDF attached to this lesson. And I need you to read that section on the causes, that's page 86, including the bullet points. And you need to, under the heading, the Great Sioux War and the Battle of Little Bighorn, and a subheading causes, put a maximum of 5 bullet points down for the causes in your own words, so you understand why this war begins, what the root causes are. Once you've done that, we need to understand the events. So again, put a little subheading that says events. Read page 87 this time, the first 2 paragraphs really carefully, and try and put the events into a sequence of bullet points in your own words. Then finally, you need to put a subheading that says results, and again, reading page 87, the impacts of the battle, you need to list down the results of the Great Sioux War and the Battle of Little Bighorn for the Sioux and for the US government. Once you've done that, that concludes the tasks for this lesson. Well done.